right, Tab, talk to me. I understand this isn't the ideal pool because of the health of the group. There's guys like, for example, Tyler Adams that hasn't been healthy, reportedly going to be back in training with Bournemouth. But what do you make of the status of our midfield at the moment?
No, I like it. I think one of the things to consider is, when we're talking about midfielders, sort of the makeup of what we've seen with the team in the past. So in the past, we've seen a midfield without a real creator. We always had a midfield that was more focused on pressing and therefore never really utilized the 10. So I think as we go through this exercise of seeing the different types of midfielders, I think we have to start to consider that, because as we've seen, Pochettino likes to play in that 4-2-3-1 mostly, which leads you to believe that the highest point of that one is going to be an attacking midfielder who hopefully can create.
Tab, before we get to those guys, let's start a little bit deeper with the defensive midfielders. And of course, the conversation kind of starts with Tyler Adams, but he's not available. But who do you like in those positions?
Yeah, so, I'll start with this. I'll start by saying that out of our whole player pool, it is likely that only Johnny Cardozo is a true number 6, someone who holds his position well and who stays, right? The rest of them are a little bit hybrid. They're a little bit of 8s, including Tyler Adams. But I think in this case, I think the one that we need to focus on, because he's here and he's with the team now, is Musah, right? A player that has, he has composure, he has big game experience. He's played in the World Cup, he's played in La Liga, and a player that I think can be a big part of what happens next with Pochettino's team.
Yeah, Tab, so let's do our Geico Get More on Yunus Musah specifically. We've talked at length about his situation at Milan. How do you think that translates over into the U.S. men's national team, or vice versa?
Well, it's not easy. Obviously, at Milan, he's not getting the type of playing time that we would prefer out of all of our national team players. But, the fact that he's at a huge club, he gets that training every day, and I think he comes prepared. There's no question that that's one of the players that you can count on in terms of his professionalism and how he delivers time after time. I think it's incredibly important to have these type of players on the team.
What about playing on the ball, Tab? How important is that for Yunus Musah and for the national team under Pochettino?
Well, that's going to be, I'm sure as Pochettino, it's been expressed before, everybody knows Pochettino was a center back, so he starts with an organization first. And I think that's one of the things and one of the challenges that Musah is going to have to start working through, because I think he's a player that if he is going to play that number 6 role, he needs to be the type of player that's a little bit more disciplined in terms of keeping his position. Sometimes, as we had seen the team in the past, our midfielders were coming out of their position. So both Musah and McKennie were at times pressing all the way wide on the wing, because the way we pressed before was with our wingers inside. I think playing in the 3-1 rather than the 4-3-3, I think that will force the midfielders to stay a little bit more central, and I think that will help Musah's game.
Let's talk about the attacking midfielders. You mentioned that 4-2-3-1, so that highest point player almost becomes a number 10, right? Or has to be that creative guy. We assume Pochettino wants to press, but maybe in a different way than we've seen here in the past. You've got the Brendan Aaronsons. We could throw, a Gio in that position. However you want to slice it up. Who do you see in those positions?
Well, and I know we don't have Christian Pulisic, playing that position at this point. We see him more, and we've seen him more as a winger. However, I think, when you look at the job he's done at Milan and the different types of plays that he creates and how dangerous he is when he goes down the middle, I would like to see Christian play a little bit more of a creative role. And if that position, that point of the triangle of the midfielders now becomes that creator, it doesn't necessarily have to be that player that goes wide to press. It's a player that's mostly inside. And I think that would be a great role for Christian, because I think we haven't had a player like him who can create as much as he can. And if he can start finding those pockets in between lines and have true guys with speed wide for him, I think he can do a lot of damage.
Tab, so you think he'll impact the game more from that central position than he would on the wing?
I do. There's no question. You know, certainly we see him play at Milan, and when he's played in other European teams in the past, I think we've seen him create that danger coming from a wide position. However, when he comes back here, at times he struggles with the 1v1s and getting through defenders. A lot of the times he goes down. He has trouble riding tackles because when he comes here to play in the CONCACAF competition, he gets fouled a lot. And I'd like to see him a little bit more central so that he can go into pockets where he's not followed as much. And I think he can be a true leader on the team, which obviously he already is, but that he can be have a little bit more of an impact for longer periods of time in the game.
Tab, let's talk about box-to-box midfielders. Although that role has changed, there's not really true guys that get one box to the other, but sort of that aid, if you will, that get that engine in the midfield, the Weston McKennie type of players. Who do you see? We got Tanner Tessman coming in to this camp, got called in because of an injury. Who do you see in those positions?
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about, you know, obviously McKennie. It's hard to get better than that. I think McKennie, it's got so many. He's got so many variations and so many options to his game to make the team better. And obviously, it all starts with, you know, with his aggressive play. You know, he's one of those players that's very aggressive on both sides of the ball. You know, his timing on his pressing is very good. He's a player that's great in the air and gets into the box well, coming from behind. So there's really very little that McKennie can't do. I'm excited to see him under Pochettino because I also think that he's likely going to be able to stay inside and focus on a lane a little bit more, and he will be able to give the national team a lot more.
All right, last one for me. Assuming we do play in this 4-2-3-1, give me, with everybody healthy, including Tyler Adams, give me your triangle, your ultimate triangle in the middle of the field.
Well, my ultimate triangle would have to be Tyler Adams as a 6. With McKennie at the 8, and for me, Christian Pulisic at the 10.
I like that. Listen, Tab, I want to ask you about one more player. It's an up-and-coming dual national that I think would make this national team setup a little bit better in the midfield. How do you think a Tab Ramos slots into this team?
Let me answer that. The 10, the right winger. Where do you want to put him? The left winger, the number 8, whichever one. Just put him anywhere.
Well, yeah. I mean, you put yourself wherever the coach wants to put you, right? But how great would it be to have, you know, Christian Pulisic at the 10? I would love to be on that right side of that 3-1 going forward.
Tab, amazing. Thank you very much for your time, for your insight, and everything, man. Thanks.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you, guys.
All right, great. Listen, we're going to take a break here on Morning Footy.